Basically, there's such a big explosion in 1976 that they just came to us. I mean, we had the goods. You know, there weren't any other good groups around.
What was it about Generation X then that convinced record companies that you were...
We were just one of the first, really, I think. They were trying to pick up on anybody, but we were one of the first with the most integrity, you know what I mean? I think we were very different from a lot of the other groups that were coming up around that time. And I think the individuality led to us being picked up so quickly.
How did you feel about the Sex Pistols and bands like that at that time?
I didn't feel anything.
What you're trying to say, there were no competition then?
I just wanted my group to be how my group was. I didn't want to be in the Sex Pistols.
Do you consider yourself as a rock band or a punk band, for instance?
Just Generation X.
What about influences then? Does Billy Fury come into it? I should imagine most people would think that you've been influenced by Billy Fury.
I've never seen him. I only seen pictures of him years ago. No, Lou Reed and John Lennon, my heroes. I'm just me, you know, I don't have heroes. I don't have, like, people I look at to copy. So, I mean, Billy Fury's like, I can't even remember him. He was old hat when I was a kid. Major things, I think it's pathetic when people sell this stuff about small labels. The basic thing is you have to get across. It's never convincing unless it's something which seems as though it's important, something which has some sort of credibility in terms of, bigness. So, yeah, I thought the only way to get across was to sign to something pretty big who can get you out to everywhere. I mean, Step Forward can only get you into London, you know. I don't think that helps anybody up here. Whereas Chrysalis have got the power to put our records out up here where the kids can buy. I think it's just, it's such a bland statement. I don't even know what it means. It's like, what do you mean by punk rock? I mean, us biz or us punk rock? You know, our Human League punk rock, or is it us? Very hard to say.
So what do you feel about punk rock then in general?
I think it doesn't exist.
And you never thought it would exist?
I think
it never has done.
I think it only exists in the mind of journalists.
It's just the new rock groups, you know, ones you can actually go and see.
What I mean is people bracketed things. They bracketed things for a purpose so they could talk about it. Unfortunately, the brackets don't really exist. Groups are just groups. They always have been. They've always been individuals. And I think that's what's fucking people up now. Because people are seeing the originality and the individuality of different groups. Right? And because of that, you know, they start getting upset because it doesn't seem like it's one big thing. But unfortunately, we never followed anybody. We just followed our own instincts. And that's why we are how we are, and they are how they are.
What about the audience here at the Victoria Hall and many other places? They think that punk rock is punk rock is Withers, and so on and so forth. Do you think that they come to a concert to compare bands against each other?
Yeah, they probably do, I don't know. Obviously you do, I don't know. I think they just come here for groove about. That's what I come for. You know, we're the groups for them, you know. We do speak their language. I mean, if that's punk rock, then we are. But all I know is I think we just speak their language. We're their mouthpiece.
What do you think about politics and when that comes to music?
I don't. Uninterests me. In fact, politicians are uninteresting. They're phonies, so I don't think it's something worth considering. I think that should be left to political parties and things like that. Nothing to do with rock and roll, yeah.
So what do you always aim at then when you're writing your songs? Is there anything in particular?
Basically talking about ourselves as people. I think that's the thing we know most about.
And where did the idea King Rocker, for instance, come from?
You better ask him.
The idea of King Rocker is about a boxing match between Elvis Presley and John Lennon to see who's the king of rock and roll. Unfortunately, Elvis Presley snuffs it. And the last verse says that we will follow them to heaven to see the final.
And that's what King Rock is all about.
I was watching the TV, you know, and I kind of thought I'd write one about rock and roll. And that's what it's about.
Do you always write your songs around rock and roll stars and things like that?
No, not at all. No, I mean that just seemed like a good idea for a song.
Let's pay it off. Well, far away.
Well, I hated school. They told me I could never do anything. They said I always had to compete with others. I hated everything they stood for. The only thing I loved was rock and roll. They told me I couldn't do that. So that instinctively made me want to do it.
Were you into rock and roll and into music at the same time as studying at school?
Oh yeah, I mean that's where I've always been into it. Yeah. I mean, rock and roll seems the only way you can like actually keep friendly with people without it being just to do with jobs or just to do with money and stuff. You stick with people in rock and roll because of ideas, not because of sort of other things. So I loved it because like at school they told you had to get all the qualifications to get jobs and you had to be like a genius, and if you didn't make it you were a dustman. And that's what they tell you. I hated it. I hated that idea that you had to be a dork all your life just because they told you. And rock and roll is the one way you prove to them, to everybody, you ain't a dork, because it defeats everything they've told you. What a huge ego.
In what way?
I'm the flashiest rock and roll star that's been in about the last 5 or 6 years.
And what's for the future for Billy Idol then, image-wise? Any change?
No, I think not at all. Wait till I get my pink Cadillac.
And no, other than that, the music won't change. What do you feel is on the way for 1979, 1980? In general?
Really can't say. I think we'll have to listen to our next record, yeah.
Cold weather mainly. We'll warm you up though.
Okay.